All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the first episode of Championship Drill in this new season. We kind of had a bit of an issue at the end of last season for those of our few regular listeners, all three or four of them, that I had pneumonia, then Phil got sick, and we had a few health scares. But we're back fighting fresh for the new season and looking forward to it. Kicking off tomorrow night with a good game. We'll look ahead to all the weekend's fixtures at some stage. Talk a bit of news. We'll go through the teams one by one and give a little preview of the season and what we think is going to happen. We'll talk about a couple of the rule changes that are coming in this season and all that. So how have you been keeping, Phil, in the off season?
All good. Busy,
looking
but
forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it being back because it doesn't feel as long as usual summers. I don't know, and there wasn't even a World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, basically we're only finishing the group stages of the Women's World Cup, so it's not like we've had that the whole way through the summer either. It's only been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
but it's if for some reason it does seem like a much shorter off season than it usually does.
I think it ended late as well.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. It's like teams only have like 2-3 weeks off now. And they're back in pre-season again. It's a bit strange, but that's the way it is. I suppose we'll start with a bit of news. Not a whole lot of it today. A couple of big stories, I suppose. One that you told me about earlier was with Birmingham City getting a new a minority owner coming into them. Which American listeners will be very familiar with, if not the whole world, really. Is Tom Brady, probably the greatest NFL player of all time, is set to become minority owner at Birmingham City.
Very strange.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sports people from America that are kind of minority owners of sports clubs in England, in particular. I know, like, Tom Brady obviously has a lot of money and things like that. I don't know how much of that will be going to Birmingham City. But it can't hurt to have someone who has to be considered, one of the best competitors, one of the, biggest stars, certainly, of sport in the world, being part of the club. Even if nothing else, I'm sure he'll, his mentality in that, in coming in and, maybe attending training sessions and talking to the players and that kind of thing, has to be good.
I think it's a trend, though, isn't it? Because, like, Ryan Reynolds with Wrexham.
Yeah, and I mean, JJ Watt, who's another NFL player, he became kind of a shareholder at Burnley. We know Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, are there at Leeds, the golfers, and we know LeBron James obviously is part of Liverpool's owner group after he bought shares in Fenway Sports Group as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of the new thing for the Americans to get involved in.
Yeah, I think the league has really kicked off in the last, since probably I know it was around, but like when COVID hit, it really seemed to kick off. In the States, people seem to get more and more invested.
Yeah, absolutely. They have, but I think it'll be a good thing. He's obviously had to put in some sort of money to become, minority owner, so there'll be some money there. But I think he's part of an advisory board, which is he's not going to be on the board of the club, so he's not going to be making kind of hiring, firing, those kind of decisions.
No, but his name value brings a lot.
It does. It absolutely does, and it might bring more American investors in. And as well as that, like I said, this is a guy that's been at the top of a very tough game for much longer than most people last. He will be considered the greatest NFL player of all time, I believe. Yeah. And having someone with that elite mentality as a sportsman can only be a good thing to have around the club. How often he's going to be there, who knows? But I think a positive move for Birmingham City, because they are a club I'm worried about, and they'll be obviously.
I mean, we actually had them to go down last season, so we'll see.
Yeah, I suppose the other big news is Newcastle have agreed a £40 million fee.
Yeah.
With Southampton for Livramento.
Yeah. Decent player, but a lot of money.
A lot of money.
I know they need players for their Champions League, so.
Yeah. And obviously, Kaleta Carr is gone as well. He went out on loan.
I think La Via is going to go as well, so they're going to be sitting on over 100 million.
They will. Ward-Prowse surely going to be going as well, you would
Well,
think.
West Ham are trying to be cheeky with the deal there, but
Yeah.
he's definitely
But
going to
like
go.
you said, I mean, if they get 40 million and 25, 30 million for Ward-Prowse, whatever it may be.
Oh, they'll be talking nearly 150 million by the time it's all done.
Yeah, and when we go through Southampton and what they've done in the transfer market, probably use it because there's not a whole lot of good news when it comes to transfers.
I'd
As
be
is usually the case, I got to say for the fans of those teams that come down, especially Southampton, who maybe haven't been down in a while, and Leicester, who 9 years obviously, it's fairly normal when a team comes down to Championship that they lose a lot of players
yeah.
in the first part of the transfer window before they sign the players back in again.
Yeah.
So it's I wouldn't be that worried about Southampton yet, but like you said, they're going to have a lot of money, and it's about investing it wisely because there's a lot to be said for players who have that Championship experience, that can help get you back up into the Premier League. Because as we know, really
100%.
really tough division to get out of.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm worried about them, to be honest. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I would too if they don't get it right. I mean, I'm not worried
the
about
manager as well. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them when we come to them. So we were having a look. There's, I know, QPR's manager was giving out about some of the new rule changes, but we might as well have a look through them and see. So they're talking about enhancing ball and play times.
Okay.
Usually it would be goals, celebrations, substitutions, injuries,
Red
penalties, red cards, all that kind of thing.
Everything, yeah, throw-ins.
Everything. But now throw-ins, goal kicks, all that is going to come in. And what we're going to see in the Championship, a league which, as you were saying to me there before we came on air, usually there's been games last season where we did already have 10 and 11.
There's a lot. I remember we used to chat at the weekend and go, "Oh God, another 10 minutes."
Another 10-minute game there, and it happens because of injuries sometimes in those games. But I mean, those games that were 10 minutes injury time last season could well be 20, 25 minutes injury time.
Yeah.
This season. So, we'll wait and see. So, but it's going to be more like people who watch the World Cup in December and people who are watching the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
The stoppage time is going to be more like that. It's going to be pretty regular to see, 7 to 10 minutes stoppage time at the end of each half.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of the changes. The match officials are also going to be taking a more robust approach, it says, to dealing with clear and deliberate actions in terms of delaying restart to play. So it's one of the weird ones, I always think. And I think until it happens, it's nothing's ever going to stop it. They're talking about delaying the restart to play. Throw-ins, but what they're really on about is goal kicks.
Yeah.
Now, when goalkeepers delay a game, they're given a yellow card. And then they'll do it again, and they're never given a second yellow card.
6-second thing is still I still think it should be less than that. It should be 4 seconds.
I mean, they should be given, I think the first time a goalkeeper delays a kick out, they're warned. The second time they're given a yellow card, and they're told, do it again, I'm sending you off. And they need to send them off.
Yeah, they need to straight off.
And until they start sending off goalkeepers for time wasting, it's not something that's going to change.
Yeah, 1000%.
Because they're going to be thinking, well, I'm booked now. He's not going to send me off for time wasting.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Treatment of players. New law coming in there. Obviously, there's times when players don't have to leave the pitch. Goalkeepers never have to leave the pitch when they're injured. But obviously, with the new timekeeping rules, goalkeeper going down for 5 minutes, the ref is going to add on at least 5 minutes. So, a goalkeeper going down injured isn't going to be able to do anything like that. If a goalkeeper collides with an outfield player, that kind of thing as well is going to be changed. Mm-hmm. Severe injury, 2 players from one team. All those kind of things players won't have to leave the field to play for. However, where a player, declines or when a player gets a physio to come on, so the physio comes on to give them treatment and all that kind of stuff. The new rule says we know they have to go to the halfway line and then the ref has to wave them on. Yeah. In the new rule, it's going to be at least 30 seconds that the player...
I'd be intrigued to see how this works because our match is going to end up with 20 minutes extra time.
Maybe. Maybe, but it's a case now of like, oh, if your team are under pressure and the guy just goes down and he's like, oh, I'm hurt or whatever.
Bring on
Well,
the
he could
physio.
be off the pitch for anything from 30 seconds to a minute
Yeah.
with your team down to 10 men.
Yeah.
So it's a way of trying to stop players faking injuries to try and delay games and try and take the pressure off in terms of, well, if you want to do that, your team are going to be down to 10 men for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. It says here, this is what it reads from the EFL site. In circumstances where a player declines the physio, if a teammate clearly delays or refuses to restart the game, that teammate will be issued a yellow card.
Yeah.
So if a player goes down, he's like, oh no, I don't need the physio, he's still wasting time. He can be booked for that.
The good. That's what it needs to be. Needs to speed.
Yeah.
We need to speed it up as well.
Yeah. So then we've got more law changes, key law changes. So denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And this is something we do see a lot
In the championship.
in the championship.
Yeah.
So the rules are going to change in that regard as well. So it says where a player commits an offence against an opponent within their own penalty area, which denies the opponent an obvious goal scoring opportunity, the referee awards a penalty kick. So obviously, you foul someone in the box, it's a penalty kick. A yellow card though will be issued if the offence was an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball. Yeah. So if you're genuinely going for the ball and you mistime a tackle, even if you're the last man,
yeah, because we did
a yellow card, not a red card.
We did see a lot of that last season. There was a lot of unfairness.
Yeah, and I think the Premier League already kind of has that rule in there, but the Championship didn't. And I think it is a good rule. If you make a challenge for the ball, genuine effort to get the ball, it's a yellow card. But a red card will be shown in other circumstances. So if you pull a guy back, if you pull him to the ground, push him over, basically if you've no attempt to play the ball, it'll be a red card. And the additional wording means that while cynical non-footballing actions such as clear holding, pushing, and handball offences will continue to be sanctioned with a penalty and red card, where there's an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball, a penalty and yellow card is the expected outcome. Now, this is a weird one. And it's one that gets people every single time is offside. Everybody knows basically what the offside rule is, but they keep changing what they're going to give offside and not offside. So regarding offside, the IFAB and FIFA have also clarified the guidelines for determining a deliberate play by a defender. Now, this is one of these ones where, like, if you were the defender and I was the attacker and I kick the ball and it hits you and goes to my guy who's offside, they'll say, oh, it came off the defender, so he's not offside. Yeah. Well, now a defender has to make a deliberate play for that to be the case.
Otherwise, you're just bunking it around the place. That wouldn't work.
Yeah. So the defender, it has to be a pass, passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball. So like going for a tackle or whatever. Like if I slide in from behind, I kick the ball towards my own goal and put someone through, or clearing the ball. So if I slice my clearance or if I head it backwards or something, then it's okay. If a player is considered to be in control of the pass, attempt to gain possession or clearance, this would be deliberate play, and the attacker in an offside position should not be penalised for offside. An inaccurate or unsuccessful action does not change the fact that the defender deliberately played the ball. So again, like if I go to head the ball, but it floats over my head, that's still considered a deliberate action because I tried to head it.
Yeah.
No, it's a strange one because it's going to be down to the referees. Like, I could see you're miles offside and I'm going to head the ball and I decide I'm not going to bother heading it because I know you're offside. And then the ref might say, oh, well, you tried to head it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting one. Attempts to keep the game flowing as well. A high threshold for penalising contact will remain, with officials not awarding fine for all contact, yet penalising when contact has a detrimental impact on the opponent. So those little niggly fouls and that, the ref is going to try and let some of those go and try and keep the play going. A couple of other changes, and I don't think they're on the list here, but we'll talk about them. Participant behaviour is on their list, and this is basically similar to delaying the restart. They'll take a more robust approach to dealing with participant behaviour when it falls below expected standards on field and in the technical area. So basically players giving lip to referees, managers, coaches giving lip to referees, arguing constantly and things like that. The referees are going to take much more harsher approach, and as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it should be like, it's one of the things I think rugby gets very well is the referee's the boss, and they'll only talk to the captain, and anybody else, the ref will say, "Talk to me again, I'm going to give you a yellow card," and that's the way it should be. This surrounding the referee and all this kind of nonsense needs to stop.
Yeah, 100%.
Let them ref the games. A couple of other changes I've noticed as well are they're going to have footballs on cones now around the pitch.
Interesting.
So that rather than ball boys and things like that, ball boys will still be there as part of the game, obviously, but there'll always be a ball available at certain points on a cone. Then the ball boy, you'll take it off the cone, the ball boy will put the other ball back onto the cone.
Yeah.
Just to keep the game flowing quickly, that the ball will always be.
Good.
And I suppose the away team as well, you see, is the home team. The away team will also be able to restart games quickly. You don't have to wait for the ball boy, who
Good.
can often just delay the game. The other thing, it's now going to be illegal to use towels or anything, like from fans or whatever, to dry the football.
All right. Okay. That's an interesting one, because we used to always be accustomed to the lap drying the ball before he did his long throws.
Yeah.
So that's not allowed. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, not allowed to do that now anymore. So it's a strange one. It's an interesting one, but it's just the way it is.
It's all to do with like human contact and fluids and all this.
Also, I think to speed up the game. I think
Yeah.
just get on with it. If the ball's wet, take your throw it. And also, what would tend to happen in matches is the home team would have towels planted, and the away team wouldn't have any.
True.
So I think it's just a fairness. So those are the rules changes. I think some of them are somewhat sensible, some of them not as sensible, I suppose. But we'll wait and see. I think mostly sensible changes.
Yeah.
I think the deliberate action for defender is one that's going to possibly cause a few controversies, because of it'll be down to the referee to what was a deliberate action or not deliberate action to play the ball. So there we have it. Any of those changes stand out to you as things that we're going to have to?
I'm just delighted at speeding the game up a bit, but I'm just worried about the length of halves.
I think we're going to see lots of stoppage time.
Yeah, it's not going to be ideal for anyone, really.
No, and it is going to be one of those where you're going to see. And I think the other thing with that is, I mean, I think it's a great thing that you're stopping time wasting. And one of the ways you're doing it is you're like, look, every second you waste, we're going to add back on again.
Yeah, like it could be a lot worse, I suppose, because there wasn't there talk of like stopping time completely every time we went out of play.
So, yeah, there was talk of doing that. And my big worry would be, we get some injuries in Championship anyway, but it's a 46-game season. Plus cups and whatever. Most players are going to play, 50 plus games in a season.
Yeah.
And adding an extra,
10,
say 8
minutes,
minutes a half, you're adding an extra 15 to 20 minutes onto a game.
That's an extra that's an extra 20 games if you add them all up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, like, it really is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one that could be I can see problems that way in terms of player welfare.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tiredness, squads being burnt out, which is, you might see like teams that you don't expect up in the playoffs because of this as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be very tough. I think it's going to be especially tough on teams with small squads.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's going to be an issue. So, that being said, will we get into the kind of meat and drink of what we're going to be talking about today, which is just a brief look at each team. We're going to go in alphabetical order because it's as good a way to go through them as anyway. And we'll just have a look at a couple of the transfers they brought in, quick chat about them, nothing too in-depth, nothing too detailed. We'll wait and see what happens with them. So, Birmingham City first up, who we briefly touched on, brought in quite a few players, and not spent an awful lot of money on them, that said. Dion Sanderson coming in from Wolves. You've Buchanan coming in from Werder Bremen. Ethan Laird coming in from United.
Yeah, I like him. He he's very, very got potential, and he's still only 21.
Only 21. They didn't pay a lot of money for him.
Less than $1 million.
But a guy that never really broke into the United team, I suppose. So sometimes these guys have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Christian Bielik is an interesting one, comes in from Derby. Now, he was a guy that Arsenal signed years ago, the young kid that could play midfield, could play centre-back, and played most of his career now as a defensive midfielder. But he's one of these players, and we talk about them every season. He's 25 now. He was having a great season a few years ago before he got injured. And the injury kind of, curtailed his career a little bit. But at 25 now, it's a big season for him.
Hopefully he can push
I think, big season for the likes of him.
Mm.
Tyler Roberts comes in from Leeds, and Koji Mayosi comes in from Royal Antwerp. The rest are kind of normal enough signings.
Yeah, a couple of youth players and 1 or 2 players for on loan.
Yeah. Nothing major. I think decent signings, but I do worry about Birmingham City.
Yeah. If you would put me on the spot for next season, they would be down the bottom half.
I think they will be. I mean, they lost Chong, obviously, who you'd know as well.
Yeah.
A good player. Graham left the club. Okay, you wouldn't worry about that too much. I think Bellingham leaving to go to Sunderland is a bit of a loss to them.
Yeah.
Deeney they let go, Harley Dean they let go. So they've cut like some of the older players to cut the wage bill a little bit. I don't like the players they brought in. You're like they're decent, but there's a lot of like like we said, you say the likes of Roberts, Bielik, Laird. They're players who are in their 20s who now have a lot to prove. They're not guys that have been brilliant that are coming in. They're guys that maybe have something to prove, and maybe it'll work out. It's a bit of a gamble. Maybe it won't.
True.
You worry about a guy like Sanderson coming in from Wolves at 23, who's never really done it yet, and how good he's going to be for them.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see. But that said, they've not lost too much. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to be in the lower half, and
I think they're going to be down in the last 8.
Yeah, and I think they're one of those teams where if things start to go wrong for them, they could be in real trouble.
Yeah, and the thing is, even if they do surprise us and end up, they're not good enough to even if they came up for whatever reason, luckily, they're not good enough to last.
No.
They'd need Tom Brady to spend his millions.
Yeah, and I can't see him doing that.
No.
Like I said, he's not the owner in the same way that the lads are at Wrexham. He's a minority owner. He's not even on the board as such.
Yeah.
I suppose if you go to Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah. They're another team that I'm really worried about because they lost.
They lost a lot of good players, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They lost 2 players that I thought were very good from last season.
Yeah. Which would be
Bradley Dack and Brett.
Yeah.
And both of them went for free as well.
Yeah, which I think is worse again. I agree with you. I think Dack was brilliant, and obviously Brereton Diaz leaving on a free was a tough one for them. They've brought in, you lose someone like Brereton Diaz, okay, has injury problems and things like that. And you bring in Niall Ennis, who's a guy that I don't think he's ever scored a goal in the Championship.
No, I Plymouth had a great season last season, and he was good, but
I mean, he was decent for Plymouth last season.
Yeah, there's no comparison between him and Diaz.
No, there really isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, last season I think he got 12 league goals in 38 games for Plymouth.
Yeah.
In League One.
Yeah.
If he was to, and is he going to get more or less goals?
What's the story with Blackburn? Because they've spent no money. They're literally expenditure 0, and the league starts tomorrow or Monday or Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there issues going on within the club? There could well be. I don't know. Are they under a transfer ban? I don't think they are. It's certainly not what I read about anyway.
No, I don't think so either. Just strange.
Yeah, it's a strange one, like you said, but they've not brought in a lot of money either.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. Like you said, Dak left on a free, Diaz left on a free.
Yeah.
So it's a strange one. They brought in Sigurdsson on loan as well from CSK in Moscow, the Icelandic international.
Kronstad.
Kronstad as well, yeah, from Vitesse is the Norwegian international. Decent players, but I think they're worse. I think the players they brought in are worse than the players they let go.
Yeah. Like
and
the last season, I would have said a top 8. This season again, I think bottom 10. I just can't see it. It wouldn't surprise me if they get relegated, actually.
Yeah, I certainly think Blackburn are going to very much struggle to get near the playoffs, unless
unless Ennis hits all these goals and starts scoring loads of goals. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go out and I think I'm going to stay the bottom 4. I think they could get relegated.
That bad, yeah. Oof, I don't know about that. I mean, they were a decent team last year. I know they've lost some of their big players though. But yeah, you reckon they'll bottom 4?
But again, there's a couple of weeks left. If they might bring in a few.
They need to change your mind on them. But as things currently stand, which is all we can go on.
Well, the thing is, if you took away Diaz's goals and his chances, they're in big trouble. Like they're not good. Yeah. I like that manager though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A team that I think have done pretty well in the transfer window is Bristol City.
Yeah. They brought in some nice young players. They're always been a team with young players.
I think Ross McCrory, very good player. Jason Knight, we obviously know about. I mean, Jason Knight was like Wayne Rooney saw him as the future captain of Derby County.
Yeah.
When they were in the championship.
Yeah,
he's only 22.
Yeah.
Good signing. Rob Dickey,
a
lot of experience, still only 27. I couldn't believe it when I saw Rob Dickey was 27.
I know, yeah, he seems.
I'd have given him another 10 years nearly.
Yeah.
But there you go. And again, they've not lost an awful lot. De Silva obviously went to Coventry. Moore went over France, and Kane Wilson gone to Derby. But they haven't lost a lot, and I think they've added quality to that squad. Now, it's a squad that weren't brilliant last season, but I think it's about time they had a very good season, Bristol City. Not saying it'll be this season, but I like what they've done so far. I don't know about you.
Me too. I think top half.
Yeah, I agree, and it's when you say top half, there's always a chance a team like that goes on a run.
Yeah, or 1%, 10,
you never know.
10th or 12th. I reckon.
Yeah. No, Cardiff City in a mess because of a transfer ban, and then they're allowed signed players and they're not allowed signed players. Who knows what's going on with them.
They brought in like 10 players and spent no money.
And they've got rid of a lot of players.
Yeah.
So big change. What do you make, though? I suppose their big signing, in a lot of ways, was Aaron Ramsey coming back to the club. 32, had a couple of disastrous years. One, obviously, his last year, Juventus wasn't great when he was sent out on loan a couple of times. And obviously last season in France, where he started okay, but never really was brilliant for Nice either.
Yeah.
What do you make of him coming back?
It's a good move because the club needed a boost. And the fans do love him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that absolutely loves, Cardiff City. He's obviously the captain of Wales, which is nice for Cardiff to have. I suppose
he's only 32. I would have thought he'd been older.
So I think a chance that he could do very, very well for himself, in the championship. But it's one of those. It's like he's 32. But you think of his time at Arsenal and the 2-3 big injuries he had.
Yeah.
Like his body's been through a lot. So even though he is only 32, he might more have the body of a 36, 37-year-old. But we'll wait and see. Be interesting to see how he does in the championship because, as we know, he's going to be one of these guys that players are going to target because he is the big star for Cardiff City, and he's having played with Arsenal and Juventus and that. People are going to love playing against them. So it'll be an interesting one. How do you think Cardiff are going to do? Because last season, obviously, I mean, they got very lucky. Let's be honest.
They should have got relegated.
Yeah, I mean, they really did get lucky. They had a disaster of a season.
I just think that Aaron Ramsey could easily. I don't think top half, but I don't think relegated either.
Yeah, I think they'll have a better season.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to be pushing for the playoffs.
No, I think 14th maybe.
Yeah, I think there's better teams than them there, I suppose, is the way that I would look at it.
It's hard because there's a couple of teams later on that were never in the championship yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean that's it exactly. I suppose that and we'll see how they go, and we'll talk about the new teams, I suppose, when we get to them as well. Coventry City, obviously, lots of money for Gyökeres.
Yeah.
I think they did very well on what they were able to get for him.
Yeah.
Going to Sporting.
Especially considering he had one good season, and before that, we talked to him the season before where he was barely scoring anything.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about how last season was going to be a big season for him for his career because he was 24 at the time.
Yeah.
He'd not yet lived up to potential. Boy, did he live up to potential last season. Yeah. And he's got his move to Sporting. £20 million is a lot of money for a player coming from, Coventry, who's had one good season, like you said. I think they did very well in terms of what they brought in there.
And the thing is as well, like they done even better business with. I think Ela Sims is he's very good.
He's good. He's another guy that's all potential.
As a replacement.
He's got about a goal every 2 games in his career so far. But obviously at youth level, that's at League One level. That's down a bit, the divisions, obviously, when Everton had him out on loan and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, bags of potential. And in a way, Gyökeres was the same when they first brought him in.
Yeah.
He was a guy that never really scored. I think Gyökeres hadn't scored more than 7 or 8 goals in a season when they signed him.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. I think we ran about him that he was kind of hit and miss.
Yeah. I think they've done very, very well for themselves.
Yeah. Great deals all around.
Yeah. I think the players they brought in, they've done very well. De Silva coming in from Bristol City on a free transfer. Brad Collins coming in.
Yeah. Bobby Thomas.
I think Sakamoto coming in as well. It's going to be a big player for them.
Yeah.
Japanese international.
Yeah. I think he'll do well like that. I think
Coventry were very unlucky last season. I think Coventry are setting themselves up to have another very good season.
I think they'll be there or thereabouts again. I think. Could they do a Luton and just come up this time?
I think they might. I mean, the thing is, we've written them off a couple of times, but then you think last season we didn't write them off because we learned our lesson. Because the season before they had a good season, where they just missed out on the playoffs. Last season they obviously had a great season and were very unlucky. But I think it's going to be a great season for Coventry.
Yeah.
Coventry City. I think they've signed well, like you said, and I think someone like you said, like Sims, if he can get going.
They're after signing another player that's not on that list, I think, as well. For 9 million, I think he's an American fella. I saw it a second ago now. I wasn't on Twitter, but I can't seem to find it now again. But
he's after coming in recently, is he?
£9 million forward from the American leagues. So could be.
But I do think that. I do think that I think getting 20 million was a great bit of business, even though they lost a player who was very good for him last season. Because I do think they've done a good job of replacing him, which is kind of what Blackburn Rovers didn't do when we talked about it earlier. So I think I think Coventry are going to be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think easily in the top 8.
Yeah. Huddersfield Town, not a whole lot going on there.
No.
Really to talk about. Chris Maxwell, goalkeeper coming in. Edwards on loan.
They've not spent a lot of money, or they have spent no money.
Spent a lot of money. You wouldn't say they've really lost their best players either.
No, they just got rid of a few players, yeah.
Huddersfield, they're a team that they're a weird one because they were one of the favourites to go up, you'd say, 2-3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
probably one of the favourites to go down last season.
Yeah. No,
And they're
intriguing.
just such a hard team to predict what they're going to do.
Yeah, I know. I honestly couldn't tell you. Neil Warnock's still staying, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that's why I think they'll do okay this season.
yeah.
Now, when I say okay, I don't think they're going to push for the playoffs, but been
They
wrong
might
before
finish
about
like
that.
14th or 15th. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think having Warnock there it's so good to have Warnock in the championship anyway.
Brilliant, yeah.
It's just such entertainment. And I think with the new rule changes that we talked about as well, I think his press conferences are going to be great. I really do think they are. I wonder how often he'll be sent off this season.
Yeah. Smart that he promoted a lot of people.
Yeah. Moving on to a team as well that I think have had a great transfer window so far. And, did well to stay up last season. Obviously, it's full. But they've really been clever in what they've brought in.
Yeah. They've brought
Aaron Connolly.
He's still only 23. He's still only 23.
Only 23. But the thing is, when there was a time when Aaron Connolly was like the next big thing for Ireland. And I would say he's probably 4th, 5th down the pecking order now for centre forwards.
Yeah.
And that Irish team. And I think it's a great move for him where he can be the guy that plays week in, week out for Hull.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he really needs to get his career back on track.
Yeah.
And I think he's hungry enough to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a great signing. I think Liam Delap coming in on loan is a great signing.
Great loan deal, yeah. Yeah.
The Kilo coming in from Sparta Rotterdam, player that I've seen play a few times. Belgian, good player. Xavier Simmons coming in from Chelsea. Gotta admit, don't know a lot about him, but he's coming from that Chelsea youth team, which is packed of players that are pretty decent. So you imagine he's going to be good. I just think they've done very well.
Yeah, they could be a surprise package.
And I think the players they've got rid of, I don't think there's any great shakes there in terms of a loss.
Yeah. I think I think every player they've brought in has been a step up from who they've let go, so their team is definitely a lot stronger.
I'd agree.
I think pushing top 10. But
yeah, I think they're one of those teams where if things go right for the players they've brought in, they could push for those playoff places. But they're a team, if things go, absolutely tits up, they could be heading towards relegation. They're one of those teams that could go either way, and we'll have to wait a few weeks of the season to see how they go, I suppose. But I think they've been very clever in who they've gotten rid of, very clever in who they've brought in. Ipswich Town, it's a tough one for Ipswich, obviously.
I do like the manager. I like the fact that he's an ex-United.
Probably one of the favourites to go down.
Yeah, I would think so.
And we know it's always going to be tough, and it could be a long season for them. But they only have to look at Hull City and what Hull did as kind of inspiration. Now, Jack Taylor coming in from Peterborough, good signing. Hurst coming in from Leicester, though, for me is a bit of a strange one. They've spent a bit of money on him. He's a guy that just hasn't scored goals in his career. Yeah. Another guy, pretty similar age to Gyökeres when he came to Coventry.
Might click. You never know.
It might click. I mean, again, he's a guy that had so much potential. It's never worked for him. And he's a guy that just doesn't seem to get enough goals, for me anyway. Yeah. Amari Hutchinson. I think Amari Hutchinson's an interesting player. I think he's a guy. He was a couple of seasons ago. He was at Arsenal, and he was on the bench a lot near the end of the season, on the verge of breaking into the first team. His contract expired. He decided he was going to join Chelsea because maybe he thought I have a better chance of breaking into that team. Because I don't have the likes of Saka and Martinelli and the likes ahead of me. But then he goes to Chelsea last season. We all know what happened to Chelsea last season, and Chelsea signed 27 wingers.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's like, I don't have a hope of playing for Chelsea unless I do something special. Yeah. So I think I think he was badly advised in going to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a make or break season for his career, because I think if he does very, very, very well at Ipswich, there might be a path for him into that Chelsea starting lineup at some stage. But I think if things go bad, you're looking at a guy who, even though he's only 19,
He could be
who
stuck.
had bags of potential, could be a guy that's a League One championship player for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think even though he's only 19, he's under a lot of pressure to do well. And um, that sometimes can work in your favor.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see, because he has bags of talent. He's a really gifted young player. But we'll wait and see what happens with him. Again, they've got rid of a lot of the kind of older players and brought in a lot of youth.
Richard Keogh has gone to Wickham.
Yeah. So I'd slightly worry. Do they have enough Ipswich to stay up? But we'll wait and see. It's going to be exciting to see Ipswich play, I think, next season.
I think they're going to struggle. I think relegated.
Yeah, I think they will too. But I think they only have to look to Hull and those kind of teams and hope for the best. And one of the teams that have come down, Leeds United, like we said with Southampton a bit earlier, if I was a Leeds fan, I wouldn't be too worried about the players that go out, because that's pretty normal when you come down.
Yeah.
Rodrigo obviously left to go to Qatar. Koch left to go to Frankfurt. I think on loan. I think you'll get a couple of guys that go on loan. The hopes they go back up again into the Premier League.
Yeah.
Wober's gone to Gladbach. Roberts, we talked about, has gone to Birmingham. Again, I don't think that's a big loss to Leeds.
I think Aronson is another fella that's going to come back if they come up to Premier League.
I think so, but I think these are guys coming out of the squad that are very tough to lose. In terms of what they brought in, then they've done okay, I think. Ethan Ampadu, obviously.
Another guy
I forgot he was at Chelsea.
Another guy that never lived up to the potential that he was set for.
No, but a guy that I think very good for Wales would be, and I think a big season for him. Carl Darlow, I think, is a very good goalkeeper, and I think at his age, 32, great age for goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And we know Leeds have a young goalkeeper there already.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to really, really help them, having Darlow there as probably a backup goalkeeper, but I think it's really going to help the squad a bit. And Helder Costa coming in as well.
Was he the guy that was at Wolves a few years back?
Yeah, I mean, he was away on loan in Saudi Arabia last season. Odds are Helder Costa, probably doesn't play for Leeds this season. Maybe he leaves before the transfer window goes as well. But we'll wait and see. I think, much like Southampton, I think whatever business Leeds do is going to happen in the last couple of weeks of the transfer window.
Also, as well, they have a new manager since the last start of the last.
Yeah, how do you think that's going to go for them?
He's done so well in their championship. I think Leeds will be thereabouts, because he was phenomenal with Norwich in the championship. Every time they were in the championship, they just came up under him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he could do well.
Yeah.
I think Leeds will be okay. I think they're not my favourites to win the division, by the way. But I do think they'll push for the second place, and they'll certainly push into the playoffs, I think, because I think they're going to sign more players.
Yeah.
A team that I think could push for the title, though, are Leicester City.
They really have no excuses not to finish first.
I don't think they're going to finish first. Well, they're not my pick. They absolutely could finish first.
Yeah.
But they've obviously lost Maddison, they've lost Harvey Barnes. They're the big two that have gone. Obviously, Suchoyu and Johnny Evans, who for a time were basically their starting partnership. They've lost Keelemans and Marty, Ryan Bertrand. They've lost a lot of experienced players and a lot of very good players who were in their prime. But they've got good money for at least two of those players.
Yeah.
So they've got that money burning a hole in their pocket in terms of what did they bring in? 90 odd million euro for Barnes and Maddison combined.
Yeah.
Harry Winks, 27, good signing, I think.
Yeah, for
championship. Another guy that's got a lot to prove.
Championship level, he'll be brilliant.
Yeah. Connor Cody, shocked that he's gone to the championship. I gotta be honest.
I would have thought he went to Luton or something. I would have thought.
Gotta be. I am. So I think that's an amazing pickup.
Yeah.
Stephanie Mavididi came in from Montpellier, player 25 now. And a guy I think a lot of clubs were looking at a few years ago as being like a superstar and trying to sign him, whatever.
Yeah.
And he never really went anywhere. I think he's another good signing. They've brought in Hermison, the goalkeeper. Callum Doyle's coming in on loan from Man City.
Yeah.
I think they've done very, very well in the transfer market in terms of we knew Madison and Barnes were going to leave, and they've got good money for them. I think Leicester, like you said, I think they've got no excuses.
They don't. They have no excuses not to be in the top two.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. The next team we're going to talk about are the team I think are going to win the championship.
Yeah, like
Is
they had such a
Middlesbrough.
good run last season. It's hard not to put them up there.
Manager has a year's experience now there and done very well.
Yeah.
The only thing I question is they're after signing about 37 goalkeepers. I don't know what kind of formation he plans on playing.
He'd have to sign 4 keepers, yeah.
I really don't know what kind of a formation he's got planned with that many goalkeepers. Maybe he's going to try and see can he get away with playing 2 goalkeepers in a match. Who knows? An inverted goalkeeper situation.
And the thing is, these are not young goalkeepers. Like there's two of them there are 30.
No, like Senny Diang, who's obviously very experienced international goalkeeper, and Jamie Jones, who's a very experienced goalkeeper as well. Tom Glover is coming in from Melbourne City as well. Liam Roberts as well is coming from Barnsley, but he was on loan, or he's coming in on loan for the season.
Yeah.
Or he's
or
he's come back from loan, I think, or whatever will happen to him. I think he's gone on loan to Barnsley.
Yeah,
Liam Roberts.
I think they bought him and sent him out on loan.
Yeah. So Dieng, for me, Dieng is going to be their number 1 goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Out of those ones, if you had to pick one.
Yeah.
He did well at QPR. He's always had he's had a decent career. But they've signed, like I said, beyond that, it's young players that they've got. So Alex Gilbert, young Irish player that we know a little bit about.
Yeah.
Coming from Brentford B. 21, never really made the grade there. Another guy that's got bags of potential but has never made it.
Mm-hmm.
And a player that really, really excites me, and I don't know how much playing time he's going to get next season, is the young Dutch player Rav van den Berg, who's coming from PSV Zwolle. He's very highly regarded. I know at Zwolle, or he was last season anyway. And he's a guy that, his ceiling is very, very high.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I don't know much about. I know
he's only 18.
You follow the Dutch.
He's only 18. He's only 18. He's played a bit here and there. Again, he might be one for the future. I'm excited to see what he does. May not be next season that he plays for Middlesbrough. The 18, they may decide to loan him out. Yeah. But I think he's a very smart signing. I don't think they've lost a lot. I think Grant Hall, and we'll talk about, Rotherham, but they've lost a few players, I think. But I don't think anything they're going to be overly worried about.
No,
I just think with the manager with more experience, with a couple of signings that they have made, and possibly 1 or 2 more to come in.
And my buddy to start scoring all their goals.
Yeah, that's it. I think they're the team I think are going to win the championship next season.
They definitely be thereabouts.
Banker for them to be relegated if anyone's a betting man. If I say they're going to win the championship.
Well, last season now they were bottom after the first 6 games. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Mm.
The team in early men, Millwall, who every season we say they have a chance of making the playoffs, and every season it looks like they're going to. And then they fall away.
They've had a sad summer though with the chairman died.
They have, and I think they're okay in who they've lost in terms of players out.
Yeah.
Obviously Ollie Burke going out. His loan ended. He was in on loan, but I think they've signed okay. It's wait and see, I suppose. Sarkic coming in on goal. But if you look at the players there that they've signed, Wes Harding, Joe Bryan, Sarkic, Kevin Nisbet, Casper Dinore, they're all in their mid-20s, other than obviously Joe Bryan.
Yeah.
But, that's a good age to be bringing players in at.
Yeah.
And again, Millwall are one of those teams, who knows what happens. I think, it's going to be a tricky one.
They're very hard to predict. You know what?
Very hard to predict.
I'm going to put them in the bottom half this season.
Yeah, like they're so hard to predict, aren't they?
I really want to put them up higher, but like there's just many other teams around there now. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Moving on to Norwich. Pookie is going to be gone. That's kind of sad this season. He's gone to play in the States.
Yeah.
He is 33 now, though, I suppose.
Yeah, but he was still scoring all their goals.
He was still scoring goals, yeah. So it'll be hard for them to replace him. Sam Byram doesn't have a club at the minute. It's a strange one for me that he's gone, but we'll wait and see. They brought in a couple of players.
They brought in a lad from Drogheda.
Who we know, Emmanuel Adebayo, who's a guy that's played in the Irish League. Again, only 19, so whether they're thinking about him for this season or next season, who knows?
Yeah.
And they have spent a bit of money on Christian Fasnacht, the midfielder, coming in from Young Boys Byrne.
Yeah. I'd be worried that they haven't replaced Pookie.
I mean, Ashley Barnes, I suppose. Who knows?
He's 33.
Same age.
He's 30. He's 33 as well. Like he was very good at. He was very good at championship level.
Yeah. So who knows? I think that could be a good one for them. Shane Duffy, I think, is an interesting pickup for them.
Yeah.
To get him in.
It's a good sign.
On a free transfer, and I think that's his career has stalled massively. Duffy, he kind of had that disastrous loan spell at Celtic.
Yeah, and
it's kind of found it very hard to get his career back on track. But Norwich could be the place to do it. And whatever you think about Shane Duffy defending, I think at championship level it suits him. But he's always a danger from corners and free kicks.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah.
So Norwich didn't go straight back up like they usually do last season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on this season. Good squad, good players. It certainly will be interesting to see how they get on. They're a team I expect to be in or around the playoffs again. But there's so many good teams to say that they're definitely going to do it is near impossible.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Plymouth? Another team come up. I mean, they're a team that are surely going to struggle as good as they were.
I'd love they stayed up, but I can see them in the bottom three.
It is very hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
To see how they could stay up.
Yeah, they just
home form is going to be key, I think, for it.
Yeah, but the thing is, like all these teams, like say who came up years ago, were always very good like that. But I think. I
mean, one of the things you say to give yourself a chance of staying up in the championship, or certainly that I would say, is you need to sign players with a bit of experience that kind of know the division, that have been there and done it before.
Yeah.
And you look at who they've signed, and I think the oldest player they've signed is from FC Twente, Julio Pizzagallo, who's coming in. He's 26, and the goalkeeper Connor Hazard is coming from Celtic, 25. The rest are like 17, 19, 20, 22, 21, 22. Yeah. They've a lot of 3 players in on loan that are very young.
Yeah.
2 players that they've signed, obviously Ballymumba from Norwich, who's very young. Morgan Whitaker coming in from Swansea, who's very young. Good players, but if you're going to be in a relegation scrap, which they probably are, you probably want guys with a bit more experience coming into the club.
Yeah, you need 2 or 3 more, I think.
And I think for Plymouth to have a chance, I think they need to bring in a bit of experience in what's left of the transfer window.
Yeah.
And their home form is going to be key, but I think it's going to be a long season for them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're going to go down, because we saw what Hull did last season. I mean, Hull didn't have a prayer, really. No. But they managed to keep fighting, and they managed to stay in the division.
I think I'm going to say last.
yeah, I think they're going to struggle. We move on to one of our favourite teams, who again have signed about 17 trillion players. Well, they haven't really. They've promoted a lot of players from the youth team up to the senior team, but I think that's only for pre-season. I don't think it's going to stay that way for the season. But in terms of who they brought in, Jensen coming in from Adet, Watmio coming in from Wigan, and Holmes coming in from Huddersfield. Kind of the big ones. Will Keane, as well as another guy, 30 now. Will Keane.
I still think he's got something to him, though.
Yeah, it's just he is one of these guys that you do think to yourself, this guy's got to put in a season somewhere where he's going to score 20, 25 goals. And the one thing, Preston, like for me, like I look at the players that Preston have lost, and none of it worries me too much, with the exception of probably DJ, because the fans love him so much. Daniel Johnson has gone to Stoke.
Yeah.
I don't think they've lost too much. Yet anyway.
Not compared to what they've signed anyway.
But they are one of these teams that are they're just always, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, like close to putting a playoff run together, but never doing it.
Yeah, it's like they almost become burned out.
And I think the fans are getting sick of it. And I think it's probably something we've probably said every season if we go listen back, but it's no different. Eventually, they're going to have to decide, do they want to play in the Premier League or not?
Yeah.
And they're going to have to, if they want to play in the Premier League, they're going to have to.
They tried. They tried when they brought in like Scott Sinclair and one or two others.
Yeah.
It just didn't work.
It didn't work from then, no. I think, again, you look at the ages of the kind of main guys they brought in. Will Keane, obviously, like we said, 30. Holmes is 28. Watmuyo is 26. Jensen is 23. Good ages. Good ages to be bringing players in. Like we were talking about there a minute ago, where, Plymouth might struggle. That's experience that they're bringing into that team.
Yeah.
And obviously Calvin Ramsey coming in from Liverpool, they've got a good relationship with Liverpool when it comes to getting players in on loan. Leighton Stewart as well is coming from Liverpool. I wouldn't know. We'll have to talk to our Liverpool fans to see what they think of him, how good he could be. But it's going to be interesting, I think, to see Will Keane and how he gets on with them. I think potential is there, but I think losing Johnson, I think, is a loss. But would you swap Johnson for Will Keane? I probably would.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Which is essentially what they've done.
Yeah, it's a good, yeah.
Move on to a team that I think are another ones of my favourites to go down, because they, as a club, they've just gone so far downhill.
It's ever since the World Cup they just collapsed.
And that's QPR. If people don't know who we're talking about. Morgan Fox, I think a good player to bring in. Begovic, loads of experience. Good to bring in. Callback, 33 now.
Yeah, he's still decent.
That's where they play him, I suppose.
Championship level, he's still good.
Yeah, and then Paul Smith coming in from Leyton Orient, and a couple of young players coming in then as well.
I'm surprised with, like, say, Luke Amos. He's decent.
Yeah.
They released him. He's no club.
Yeah. And I mean, you look the end went. We obviously talked. He joined Middlesbrough. Big loss, I think, for QPR, because I think he's been good for them. Yeah. And they replace him with Begovic. Bags of experience. Wait and see, I suppose, for Begovic, whether it's going to work out or not there.
Yeah.
Again, they're a team that have lost a lot of experience. Probably not a bad thing.
Yeah. No,
but
looking through their list there, they've lost a few, all right.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Martin's 34. He's not going to be much of a loss. You look at Leo Balogun, 35 now. Connor Masterson, okay, he's 24, but he's gone to Gillingham. He didn't really cut the grade in the Championship anyway.
No.
I just think they're going to struggle. I think Dickey is a big one to lose. I think you're losing one of your centre backs. You're losing your goalkeeper. and you had, like you said, a terrible second half to last season.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an issue.
Obviously
The manager isn't bad.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see. I do fear for QPR though. I really do think they're going to be.
I think they're not going to get relegated, but they're going to be very close.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they're going to be down there, and it wouldn't surprise me if they went down. It really wouldn't. Rotherham, who delighted they stayed up because they're kind of people who follow the Premier League will know of Euro clubs in the Premier League. The likes of Norwich, who come up and down and up and down and up and down all the time.
Yeah.
The Premier League. Rotherham are kind of that when it comes to League One and the Championship.
Yeah.
So it was good to see them stay up last season. Grant Hall coming in, Cafu coming in. Now that's Cafu who used to play for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
Not the Brazilian legend who's about 50 odd now.
Yeah.
I suppose Fred Onyedina coming in. Luton, I think that's a good signing for them.
Yeah, he's very good, yeah.
Dylan Phillips coming in from Cardiff, goalkeeper. I think Grant Hall and Cafu are interesting signings, certainly. Andre Green coming in from Slovan Bratislava. Lost arguably their best player in Adbene.
Yeah, he's the guy that would be like Saha for Palace. He'd create your chances.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do without him. That's it. Had a very good season for them last season. Scored a lot of goals. Was also injured a lot.
Yeah,
missed a lot of games to injury. So we'll wait to see. And that was the other thing. Not to automatically bring it back to Leeds, but we'll talk about it maybe when we go through the fixtures. But I just have one more thing to say about Leeds when we do that. How do you think they'll get on, Rotherham? Struggle? Do you think they might make mid-table?
Bottom half.
Yeah, I hope they stay up again.
Yeah.
Because they were very unlucky a few years ago, the COVID season. They should have stayed up, but
I do think that they are better than Ipswich and Plymouth, so
they've got a chance.
They've got a chance.
One of the other teams that came up, don't ask me how they came up, because was it 4-0 they lost the first leg of that semi-final?
It did indeed, yeah. That was one of the craziest games I've ever seen.
Lost their manager. Talk was he wanted too much money. Well, that's certainly the chairman's point of view, that he wanted a new contract for too much money. So he said no, and he walked away. Now, I haven't heard his side of the story yet. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. So like I said, that's just what the chairman has come out and said. That's going to be a big change for them, obviously, because the players obviously loved him.
Yeah. Oh, he was a character. He was well loved by everyone.
So I think that's going to be a big change for Sheffield Wednesday.
I still think they're not going to go down, though. I think they'll stay up.
I think they will too. I mean, I think they have enough about them. Again, I don't think they've signed brilliant players. I mean, you probably know Bernard from Man United a bit better than I would. But I look at a guy who's 22 years old, who's probably played I don't know what for Man United. I imagine not many games.
No, he'd be more the League Cup.
Yeah. I think Diaby coming in centre back from Preston isn't terrible. He's a good player, but he's not a brilliant player. Valentin, 26, coming in.
Ashley Fletcher should have really, really pushed on more than he has.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. Good age, 27, a lot to prove. It will be good to see how he gets on. All right, that could be a good signing for them. Good call on that one. And obviously they've signed Reece James as well, not from Chelsea though, from Blackpool. I'd say there must have been, when they saw those highlights, there must have been, what? Reece James? Different Reece James. But, a good player nonetheless as well, it has to be said.
Yeah.
They're another team. I wouldn't say what they've lost is terrible.
No.
Stockdale, goalkeeper, going to York City. 37. I mean, I don't think they're going to miss him,
He wouldn't have been their first choice, for sure.
No, and like you, I think Sheffield Wednesday are going to be thereabouts in the relegation battle, but I think they'll have enough about them to stay up.
I think so too. I really do.
I'm not saying that they're going to, make the playoffs or win the league or anything, but
The
I
next,
think
the
they have enough
next,
to.
the next team I'm going to make a bold statement. Southampton.
Yeah, Southampton.
I'm going to make a bold statement.
We talked a bit about them. They've
they're not
lost a
going,
lot of players.
they're not going to get relegated, but they're going to be in the bottom half.
Yeah, if I had to, that is a bold statement. If I had to pick where I think Southampton will finish the season, I'd put them in 8th. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Oh, I don't think so either. I genuinely.
Unless, like we said, they've got bags of money. And we can only go on their squad as it currently is.
They spent £12 million on Shea Cher. I don't know much about him.
No, what I will say is kicking off the season, Lavia and Ward-Prowse are still at the club. They will play.
Yeah.
But those are 2 players that could possibly help them get off to a good start to the season before they leave.
Yeah.
But, Ryan Manning coming in from Swansea, really?
Yeah. I know managers bringing old players in from old Hunt.
Yeah.
Like it happened with West Brom as well with Barnsley
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Willie Caballero has retired at 41, which is, he wasn't playing much anyway for them.
Mohamed Salou, he's a big loss.
Yeah. 34 now, Theo Walcott. They let him go. He's without a club.
Yeah.
Walcott wouldn't be a bad pickup, like for a club now. I don't know what he played there, but for a club like we said, Plymouth, who need a bit of experience in the squad, even if he's not a guy that's going to play every week.
Yeah, just to get the lads riled up for matches. Yeah, I know, 100%.
And I think for Plymouth that kind of a signing could be good. Obviously, Southampton, he's gone from Southampton, so maybe he just wants to.
If you don't sign, like, do you know much about Shea Charles?
No, not a whole lot. I mean,
a lot of money for a fella who's very young.
It is, but again, he's a player. Who I think he can play for Northern Ireland. He's a player that's at Man City's under-21 squad. He's on loan. Is he on loan? No,
they bought it. They signed him for 15 million or something.
Yeah, for 12 and a bit million. Yeah. Wow. So they must obviously see something in him they really, really like. I can't say I know a whole host about the guy.
I don't know much about him either. It's just it says a lot if they're spending 12 million on him. He must be decent.
It does. I mean, he's a guy that has he has played for Northern Ireland. He is a full international at 19.
Yeah.
I think it's something like 10.5 million going up to like 15 or something like that. It seems to be is what people are talking about. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him. But I know he has played for Northern Ireland all through the youth setup and that, and he is an international with them. So he's supposed to be an international at that age. Okay, he doesn't have, it's not like he's 19 with 40 caps. He's only got like 5 or 6 caps for Northern Ireland. But still, like you said, it's a lot of money. They must see something in him that they really like.
Well, again, he's probably a replacement for Ward-Prowse.
Possibly, yeah. And starting to spend some of that money, like we said, because they've already brought in money, like we said, 40 million today. And I suppose that's the other side of things is they've got to sell Ward-Prowse, they've got to sell Lavia. Obviously, they sold today for 40 million as well, but Lavia and Ward-Prowse, they go. So they have the money now, the 40 million coming in. They can start to, build the squad again. But yeah, if I had to pick a spot, I think 8th place for them as things stand. Now, like you said, they could end up with 130, 120, 130 million to spend. And they could,
My big fear is that they buy 6 players that no one's heard of from foreign leagues.
Yeah, and I think that's always a risk.
And it won't work out.
No, I think what they have to do, again, you've got to buy players who know the championship.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they've got to do. They've got to look at who was really good last season and let's, sign someone like that who we can, who we think can do very, very well for us in the championship. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. Pardon. I really think it's going to be a tough season for Southampton unless they bring in the right players. Like you said, if they just waste the money and bring in kind of has-been Premier League players.
Not even has-been players, but like these young players from, say, the Belgian and the Austrian leagues.
Yeah, which doesn't always work out well. Or if they spend, 30 million on some fella, like you said, from Holland or Belgium or
Yeah, it just doesn't work
Italy
out.
or wherever.
Like they could be brilliant in their league, but it just doesn't work out in England.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll wait and see. Stoke City, interesting one because Stoke were a
They've
team as
signed
well
a
last
lot.
season.
They've signed
Very good and then very bad.
They've signed a lot of players.
An awful lot of players.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mane coming in from Karen Barkaros from Hungary. A guy that again, decent forward, decent record.
This is the kind of guy now that I would just on about.
Yeah, it's going to be impossible. Like he's a guy he could score 20 goals next season, or he could score 3 goals next season.
Exactly.
You just don't know. I think Enda Stevens, though, coming in from Sheffield United is a great signing.
Great signing, yeah.
We talked about DJ already, Daniel Johnson coming in from Preston.
Luke McNally is another one.
Yeah, McNally's a good signing.
Yeah.
Mark Travers as well coming in. Travers, a good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I think they've signed good players, Stoke. I really do.
Yeah.
And they've got rid of a lot of players.
They've signed bitty players with good ages, as you said, 28, 27, 25.
Yeah, and I mean, Phil Jagielka, 40 years old, gone. Sam Klukas, gone. Yeah. They've got rid of some of the...
Adam Flint, Nick Powell is actually surprised. I didn't think he'd go down to Stockport.
No.
He's not even 30, like.
No. And he's been good for them. But I think they've overhauled that squad well. It might take a few weeks to settle, but I think if those players settle, I think Stoke could be in for a good season. They could be an outside shot for the playoffs.
Yeah. They're always hard to beat, and they're bitty and hard and awkward.
Very hard to beat, especially those. I mean, it is a cliche saying, a cold night in Stoke, like a cold Tuesday night in Stoke. But it is a horrible place to play. The wind blows around that stadium. It is absolutely horrible to play there.
Next team is interesting because last year I said that they would Sunderland. I said last season that they would have. I'm going to reverse it this season and think they'll be in the bottom 6.
Yeah. I think they've signed okay. Again, a lot of young players. Bellingham obviously is a very good player. A lot of potential, but at the same time he's not his brother, at least not yet. Anyway. Bradley Dack, though, is a guy that I know you like.
Yeah, he's very good. He really is, and again, right age, 29. That's what you want. You want players this age in the Championship.
But I think they got lucky, didn't they, last season with some of the lads they brought in on loan.
Well, Dallo is the big one, and he's not going to be going back to him.
Yeah.
Like he was.
And it is a tough, again, I think the potential is there if they, if things go right for them, but potential is also there to go completely the opposite way, like you said.
I think bottom 6. I genuinely think they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, second season syndrome.
Yeah, no, I just had a feeling last year that they do something, but this season they're just, I don't know what it is. They're just, Bellingham is only 17 as well.
That's what I mean. It's the potential is there, but they're not there yet. And this is an unforgiving league. It really is for young fellas. I mean,
exactly.
And like we said, one of the new rules coming in is refs are going to leave some of those niggly fouls go. There's a lot more than niggly fouls happening in the Championship, though. You've got to be tough. It really is a tough one. Swansea. Don't know what to make of Swansea last season. They were terrible and then suddenly very good again.
Yeah. Do you know what? Top half of the table. And
I think obviously Michael Obafemi, who's a player we know well, obviously an Irish international. Tough one to lose, but I think they got good money for him.
Jerry Yates is a good replacement. He's decent. Yeah,
I think Yates good coming in from Blackpool. I think again they're buying players the right age.
Yeah.
Ginley, Kay. I think in terms of who they've lost, again, I'd say with the exception of probably Obafemi, I wouldn't be too worried about who they've lost.
Yeah.
Maybe Ryan Manning, who's gone to Southampton, will be a bit of a loss to them. But I can't predict Swansea because they were so,
Yeah, they're very
so up and down last season. I mean, they were on verge of relegation nearly at one point. Yeah. Well, not relegation, but being dragged into the battle.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they went on a run.
Yeah. I think this season is going to be a lot different to last season because we were talking even before the season started, the World Cup was going to mess everyone up.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that's not going to happen this season. You know, lucky for QPR, I suppose, because like you said, I've never seen a team fall away
that was ridiculous.
like they did after the World Cup. And you wouldn't mind. It's not like their whole squad was at the World Cup.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Uh,
it was mental.
I don't know what happened to QPR last season after the World Cup, but there you go anyway. Yeah, Swansea, they're one of those. If they finished fifth, it wouldn't surprise me. If they finished 15th, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're one of those teams. Watford been down here now a couple of seasons, and the longer you're down, the harder it is to get out of there.
There's a lot of players a lot of players coming in.
Tom Ince, a weird one.
Yeah,
Knows the league. He's another guy that's always like kind of the nearly man, really, isn't he?
yeah, he is. He really is. Like when he was a young lad, like I thought he was going to be the next big thing. He just didn't kick on. He didn't kick on.
Yeah, Jake Livermore coming in from West Brom. He's a good player.
He is very
33 now though.
Yeah, that's the worry. That's the worry.
Yeah.
Um,
Like you said,
aren't they in trouble though? Like they're signing a load of free players because they can't actually buy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They are in trouble at the minute. I think they're talking that that's not going to last long, and I'm sure they'll buy players or sack the manager, whichever.
Yeah.
I
wonder what they do.
Obviously, you know, Joe Pedro's gone.
Yeah.
Good money for him, but like you said, they can't spend it at the minute. I don't think they're confident that they're going to be allowed to buy players again soon. It's all to do with not paying a club or something, isn't it, over a transfer a while back or something?
A young fella, yeah.
It's a mess, but they're confident they're going to get it sorted. And Sarr finally gone.
Yeah.
Marseille for 13 million.
Way cheaper than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, if they sold him last summer, he was gone for 35, 40 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they obviously didn't. Yeah, so I think their squad is a little bit weaker than it was last season.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But then I think the likes of Pedro, the likes of Sarr, probably always had their eye on something else.
True.
So maybe it'll suit them better.
Yeah, again, they're very tricky to predict where they're going to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I'd fancy them to push for the playoffs. But I think this is the season where I think if they don't go up this season, they're in danger of becoming, you know, Leeds, as in what happened to Leeds. It could be another 10 years before they go up.
They'll be stuck there for years, yeah. Like, look at all the players that left them. I know there's a few of the loan fellas.
Yeah, but I mean, Sarr's a big loss. Pedro's a big loss. I mean, yeah, they've got, you know, the bones of 50 million euro for the two of them. But, you know, you have to be allowed to spend that money too. And plus, and plus the issue with Watford is it's one thing if you can come in and you know the club are going to back you. But as a manager, you know, like you're 3 bad results away from being sacked, no matter what.
Exactly. They start the first 3 games without a win and they're in trouble.
Yeah, and the manager's gone. Someone else will come in. He'll last 12 games before he's sacked.
I see
and they'll probably be on their 3rd manager by Christmas.
And Tom Cleverley retires.
Yeah.
Young to retire. He's only 33.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one, all right.
And thank God.
There you go. Few dodgy moves to Udinese. Obviously the same owner. You know, so yeah. And the less said about that, the better, I suppose. It's not only, I know people give out about Saudi Arabia and the dodgy deals going on.
And then West Brom then.
When you see Watford have sent 4 players on loan to Udinese, and they both have the same owner, you wonder what's going on there as well. West Brom, yeah. A couple of players they lost. Livermore, like I said, 33 though. They probably wanted to move on from. Darrell O'Shea is a big loss for them.
Yeah, huge. And they got the money they got for him is. I would have thought they got a lot more. He's very good.
Yeah. I think maybe a year left on his deal, possibly, is why it was so low.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what, 7 million or something that they paid for him, or certainly initially around that. There's probably add-ons there as well. They brought in Maja coming in from Bordeaux, as a centre forward. I suppose they do need goals, don't they? That's something they struggled with last season.
Yeah. They got rid of Kyle and Grant today. He's gone on loan to Cardiff.
Yeah.
Wasn't really great for him last season anyway. but my dad's kind of worried because they brought in Maja, who was free.
Yeah. Comes in as free. I mean, he has played in the Championship, but he's only scored 2 goals in 32 games in the Championship.
That's not good enough for, like, again, they're a similar team to what we ran about earlier.
Yeah.
They don't go up this season.
Yeah.
They're going
But elsewhere, Maja has done well when he's been, at other clubs.
Yeah.
So maybe.
He's only 20.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, Gyökeres came to Coventry, like we said, like 7 goals or something was the most he'd ever scored in a season.
Yeah.
So you never know, but they'll need something like that to happen, won't they? Really,
they really do. They might be lucky. You never know.
They might. Your dad is worried about them.
Yeah, like I think he's resigned that they're going to be just a championship team from now on.
Oh
no! Yeah, I think
that's for those who don't know. Phil's dad is a big West Brom fan. So
the only thing is, Carlos Cabro is a good manager, and he did fix them. He did fix them when they were very bad under Steve Bruce.
I suppose an outside chance of the playoffs, you might say.
Yeah, exactly. Outside chance.
But we'll wait and see. We will wait and see what happens.
We'll go through the games, I suppose.
We'll finish up. I know it's been a long one, but it is the preview show, so thanks for sticking with us. Game to kick off tomorrow. Team that just came up, team that just came down. Sheffield Wednesday versus Southampton, 8:00. Hillsborough's going to be buzzing for that one, isn't it?
Sheffield Wednesday will beat them.
That's not a nice place to go your first game of the season, is it? No. A team that just came up away.
Yeah, I think they will. I think 100% Sheffield Wednesday will beat them.
Yeah. I think Lavia and Ward-Prowse will play for Southampton tomorrow. I know the fear is one of them breaks a leg and you can't sell them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think while they're at the club, you have to play them.
Yeah, you really do.
I think that's. I mean, obviously Southampton should be the favourites to win that one, but like you said,
they're going to get it. They're going to get a landing tomorrow night. Southampton are going to get a landing.
I mean, it's a horrible, horrible first fixture to be away in an evening game to a team that just came up.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to get a landing tomorrow night. Now that they'll get a landing to why are we in the Championship? As they're going to be saying their heads as well.
Yeah. I mean, we looked then at Saturday's games, Blackburn, West Brom. I mean, games are kind of hard to call because we don't know, 5-6 games in the season before we really know what teams are doing this year.
I think West Brom will beat them.
Yeah, Bristol City, Preston. I mean, most years that's a game. That could be 7-0 either way or 0-0, like you said.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough, Millwall. I mean, that's a tough test for both teams immediately.
I think Middlesbrough want to get off to a good start.
I think they will too. Yeah. Norwich home to Hull. I think that'll tell us a lot about Norwich this season.
Yeah, 100%.
How they do in that game. Yeah. Again, it's the first game of the season. If they lose it, I'm not going to say, well, that's Norwich not going up.
I think Plymouth would beat Huddersfield as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just do.
I think Stoke have to get off to a good start at home.
Yeah, I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah, Swansea, Birmingham. I fear for Birmingham City in general.
Yeah,
but Swansea, again, like we said, just can't predict what Swansea are going to be this season. We'll see.
The first game
very hard to know. Watford, QPR. I'd be shocked if Watford don't beat QPR, but somewhat of a local derby as well. So that's the big one. Sunday's games: Leicester against Coventry. Again, an early kickoff on a Sunday.
Could be a good game.
That'd be a good game. Be a good game. Leeds playing Cardiff. Again, Cardiff have signed well.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say about Leeds that I forgot to say earlier, that I remember while we're on it, is like when they've sold the likes of Rodrigo and that, Bamford staying injury free is going to be key for Leeds next season.
I agree.
Like if he has a season like he did last year where he's injured a lot, they're in real trouble. I do fancy them to go back up, or certainly to, maybe make playoffs anyway. I mean, I think Leicester and Middlesbrough would be my top 2 if I was, forced to pick them right now this minute. Yeah. But I think Leeds will be up there. But I think if Bamford is not at its best, I think they struggle. And then Sunderland, who you think might struggle this season against newly promoted Ipswich Town as well. and that'll be the 5 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. And takes a few weeks, as we know, before we go to the midweek game. So that'll be all for this weekend. Looking forward to getting things going. I suppose we'll leave it there, Phil, because it is a bit of a long one when we have to go through every club at the start of the season.
Yeah.
But after a couple of games, we'll know more about our predictions and things like that for how we think the league will go. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see which teams get off to a good start. It's going to be interesting to see where the shock result comes from, because there's always one.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, could well be. Kicking it off tomorrow night. It's going to be
If they're not up for that game, then they'll get if Sheffield Wednesday get hammered tomorrow night, they're going to get relegated.
Yeah.
They're not up for the season if they're not up for tomorrow night.
Yeah, and they should be. I mean, the place is going to be buzzing. It really will be. So will we leave it there, so Phil, and we'll come back probably on Monday, I imagine, and look back at the weekend's action. Possibly Sunday night, but it'll probably be Monday if that's the case before we get it out. So probably be more Sunday night when we record it. If anyone has any questions they want to ask us to that, they can do so through whatever channels. You can find us on Twitter and whatever at Championship Drill. You can send us questions there, or through whichever way you're listening to this as well. You can probably send us. So we will leave it there. Thanks everyone for listening in. We will try to be a bit more consistent this season. Health holding up in that.
To be fair, if we can record every Sunday evening, we think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Usually Sundays are kind of a good day for us to start recording, so we should be able to do that. Anyway, whether or not we'll be able to do all the midweek recordings, we'll see how the season pans out. But certainly we'll be every Sunday night. Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back with you again on Sunday.